Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you and I want to know that anybody in any point of view is fine with me on this show. My particular topic today, which I think is very important, because ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you this, and these are the facts. And I'm not a politically correct guy. Matter of fact, I'm somewhat politically incorrect, as Mr. Haley well knows. And the fact of the matter is that there is the phenomenon and reality of a vast worldwide Christian persecution, which, frankly, for one reason or another, I can't give the reason, the mainstream media declined to discuss it, report it, and in fact, most people don't want to hear about it. They want to hear about George Floyd. They want to hear about undocumented immigrants. They want to hear about women's rights. They don't want to hear about these people being killed and their bodies being burned and their churches being demolished. They want to hear about undocumented immigrants. They want to hear about women's rights, not to have an abortion, to have an abortion. They want to hear a lot of things, but they don't want to hear about the deaths of many, many hundreds and thousands of Christian people. Let me give you some examples of what I mean, of the reality of this virtual genocide. And by the way, I don't know the reason why Christians are persecuted, as opposed to other faiths, which are not. Buddhists are not persecuted. Shintoists are not persecuted. Christians are persecuted, and they are persecuted because obviously you only persecute somebody who's a threat, plain and simple. And in Christianity, it's a tacit admission that it is the true and accurate and absolute faith. That is what it is, and that is what bothers people and brings about this persecution. And particularly Jesus' concern for poverty and for underclass people in totalitarian states, that's a no-no. They want to keep people poor. They don't want to hear this. And most of all in our society and in many societies, they resent the exclusive claim of Christ to be God. That is his claim. You can't evade it. There's no way getting around it. That is what he says he is. And he said it many times. And in Exodus, it was stated from Mount Sinai by the God from that mountaintop and said in those tablets of stone, he said, you shall have no other gods before me. Let me give an example of what is going on in terms of Christian persecution in India. Let's look at our latest example. A pastor, Degal, on August 24th, 2008, he had finished a worship service in the Kandalamal state, and he was heading to a friend's house and where he's going to take shelter, and he was attacked by a mob of Hindu extremists who had approached the church building and demolished it. And they came to this man's house, this mob, and they threw a stone at him, asking him to renounce Jesus. He refused to do it, and he was killed. Let me tell you what is going on in the Indian culture in this respect. They are saying there's a phenomenon of that Hindus are attacked recently over the years 600 Christian villages. They destroyed hundreds of thousands of houses, churches. They injured over 60,000 people. The massacre was huge. 18,000 were injured in these concerted series of attacks. They attacked 600 villages, destroyed hundreds of churches, burned 60,000 homes, injured and left 50,000 Christian Indian family homeless, and 18,000 were injured in these attacks. This is one of many attacks on the part of Hindu nationalists against Christians in India. You give me the reason, I don't know, whether they don't like them or they threaten them. But let's take a look at Nigeria. Nigeria is is a burning ground of anti-Christian Semitism, anti-Christian feeling. In July of 2020, jihadists killed civilians in Nigeria. In June, Islamic militants killed Christians in Plateau State in Nigeria. A Nigerian student died after a brutal attack on a church, and 20 Christians were killed by Islamic militants. I have nothing against Islam. I'm merely reporting the facts. In July of this year, Christians were forced to remove a cross from the situation in Iran is critical. 3 church members were arrested and are serving 10-year sentences of acting against national security and promoting Zionist Christianity. 3 of these men are in jail for their faith in Iran. These charges are bogus. They are based on their Christian faith. And in addition, in February of 2020, Kamal, Muhammad, and Sharaz, 3 people, I'm giving their first names, in February of 2020, were arrested in a house church meeting with 6 other Christians. Algeria, the situation is critical. The Algerian government has shut down 3 churches, forced Christians from their buildings. These are just some examples, ladies and gentlemen. Let me move on to other things. In India, Pastor Brian Neeran, a very sincere American pastor trying to help the poor people in India and Nepal, he was detained for 7 months. And it is reported that the central government in India wishes to crush Christianity. In Iran, a Christian convert, Ibrahim, has been in and out of prison since 2011 and banned to a border city. Finally, Samaru, a 14-year-old Christian, was kidnapped and burned and killed in the jungle. These are just some examples, ladies and gentlemen, unreported by our wonderful television networks who report everything and anything about women's rights. And I have nothing against women, but I'd just like to give a reason why this is not really reported and everything else is being reported. I want to know the reason. The left is very, and I have nothing against the left. Certain things I agree with them. They're concerned for poverty and poor people as a Christian, but they're very concerned about the undocumented. But they, frankly, are not very concerned about the lives of our Christian brothers and sisters. So let me go into this a little more. Let's take a look at some more acts of Christian persecution. An attack on Fazima, a Muslim who becoming a Christian, was chased by her husband and attacked with a stick for not attending a mosque. Finally fled with her children. A child, Mihak, was burned in a church in Pakistan. And Christians are harassed and attacked in Pakistan. As I mentioned, Brian Neeran, an American pastor, was detained for 7 months because of his Christian faith. And he's a father and a grandfather and has run a nonprofit ministry in India. He was arrested and targeted as soon as he stepped off the plane in India. What I'm saying is, ladies and gentlemen, I'm giving you the tip of the iceberg of the persecution of Christian people in the world on a constant. Of course, I have to say this, that I'm a Christian and I have a theological degree from Princeton Theological Seminary. And I know that for the first 400 years, Christians were severely persecuted in the Roman Empire. And they were martyred. Many were martyred, just as they're being martyred today in the Roman Empire. Let's take a look at some other incidents. For Christians in India, Katesh family became Christians. They got threats from their Hindu neighbors, and then Hindu nationalists came to their home and dragged them to the local temple. In which Ritesh and his wife Vanya and their 2 daughters were forced to sit in a row, and the men harassed and beat the husband in front of the terrified daughters. Ritesh was later arrested on false charges. This is the reality of what is going on in the world against adherence to Christ. Jesus is not a danger. He's a peace lover. He's a peacemaker. He's a person who promotes love. And I wonder why Christians are being persecuted. Let me give you some other examples. Raymond Coe, a pastor, was abducted in Malaysia in 2017. Has not been heard from since. John Short was detained after leaving a gospel tract in a Buddhist temple in North Korea. Pastor Hossein Sood was executed for being a Christian in Iran. Sister Amber was interrogated and assaulted by the police in Tibet. Pastor Hassan was jailed in Sudan for his Christian work. Khalid rejected his Muslim faith in Yemen. And after one day in June 9, 2014, as she prepared breakfast, she burst into flames. The persecution of Christians worldwide continues unabated and unremitted, and I say to you, unreported by a society that cares for political footballs, but does not concern themselves with human lives and the lives of these innocent Christian people. The media and the mainstream media and our political leaders are walking over the burn. But I don't know what's the right term, but our society in the West is ignoring the plight of these people and is literally walking over their dead bodies. In India, 7,000 girls are aborted in India every day. That is what is going on. A million others fight discrimination. But we in the Christian faith, we know that Christians were created, when people were created equal, and that these differences are not important. So these are some examples of what I mean. Let me give you another example. Let's take a look at the plight of Christians in the world. Here in the United States, Christians in their own way are persecuted ideologically by the media, where they are not heard. When was the last time you heard on NBC, CBS, CNN, or any mainstream media station heard a Christian voice? When was the last time you heard in a mainstream major university a Christian voice, a Christian professor? I don't hear it. Let's take a look at some other things, other examples of what I mean. In Iran, churches are routinely raided, and in May of 2017, 4 Christians were arrested and imprisoned for 10 years. This is what is going on. And in the Coptic Church is constantly persecuted in Egypt on a regular basis. The plight of the Coptic Christians, 10% of the Egyptian population, is very serious. Pastor John Kale was convicted by a Chinese court to 7 years in prison for serving the poor. Maybe they don't want that. Maybe they don't want the poor to have a chance. That could be it, you know? So let me talk a little more about some other things that I think are important on this issue. There was another massacre in India, in Kandahar, by the way, that I did discuss last time. So the situation for Christians in India is very, very serious. And also, there are blasphemy laws both in Algeria and Pakistan that if you say something against the name of Muhammad, maybe you shouldn't say things, I don't know, you can be jailed and possibly executed, particularly in Pakistan. In Saudi Arabia, you can't carry a Bible. You can't establish a church. Listen, if that isn't persecution, I don't know what isn't persecution. When I give these statements, I make these statements. Let me make it clear that I have no hatred or prejudice against any group, any country, I know that Jesus has great love for all humanity, who he suffered and died for, and that he suffered and died for all Islamic people. Uh, but this is a serious and worldwide genocide uh, in the world against Christians. Uh, there's a report I have here that 39 Christians were killed by Boko Haram in Nigeria, and uh, 110 school children were kidnapped by Boko Haram. And in China, the police arrested in 2016 more than 200 Christians and brought charges against 27, saying they were organizing evil cults. This is a tip, ladies and gentlemen, this is the tip of the iceberg. This is the reality. You are not dealing with political concerns. You're dealing with the life and death of people who have a right to their freedom of religion. Our society and the political forces publicly decline to say anything. As to why they won't say anything, I don't know. Maybe they don't like Christians themselves. Maybe they are a disfavored religion. And of course, you have to say that Jesus represents a threat and an idea that is extreme irritation and annoyance to many in the world. His claim to be God is an extremely difficult concept to take and understand. He made it, and he claimed to be the exclusive way to God, and he didn't. This is his claim. He's not merely a prophet. That's what people say, who want to find some way of evading his claim to be God. They call him a prophet, but he's not a prophet. He claims to be God. And that is what really is the demarcation point in these societies. Many people in the world, in our modern world, want to believe in moral relativism. They want to believe that every opinion is good, every idea is good, all faiths are good, all faiths lead to the same God. That's fine. But Jesus says different. He says he is God and God alone. And he is the only way to know God and understand God. Do I say that the other faiths may lead to God? Yes, in their own fashion. They're attempting to. But for Christians and for Christ, there is no alternative to who he is and who we claim him to be. His claim to be God, which was called blasphemy by his enemies in Palestine at that time, he was called blasphemy, and it led, I think, to his crucifixion. And it is leading to the present attacks on Christ and his church. Because Christ and his church represent an idea that it makes people very, very uncomfortable. They may not like it. They want to be told they're all good. They don't want to be told they're not so good. They want to be told everything is the same. They want to be told because we have political equality, therefore all concepts, all ideas, and all faiths are the same. You know, ladies and gentlemen, that is arrant nonsense. Buddhists, who I respect greatly, want to leave the material world. Christians say God created the material world and created human beings in a material form, and God came to the world in a material form. Buddhists want to leave the world. That's fine, but that's them. They're not the same as the Christian faith. Whether they're right or wrong, that's for you to decide, but they are not the same. As far as Hinduism, it is a polytheistic ancient religion, which is the same as the Greco-Roman gods in the pantheon. It is polytheism. It is the Hindu temples are replete with stone images, many of them of a sexual character. I have nothing against Hinduism or polytheism, but I believe in telling the truth. And Hinduism is a polytheistic system of worship. Christianity is monotheistic, or at least Trinitarian. So, well, ladies and gentlemen, that's about it for today, as much as I want to say. I hope you have not been offended by my words here. I don't mean to be offended, but I think the truth should be told. And the truth is that Christians are under severe attack worldwide. They're even under attack in the United States. If you're a Christian, your ideology within the academic structure and in the media is rejected and almost mocked. That's okay. You can't get a pro-life person into a college, even though it's a very valid argument to say that a person's life may be being taken. You can't get an anti-evolutionist into a college, even though it's quite valid and may be valid to say that things have a cause and a creation basis. It's a perfectly valid, reasonable argument. Can't be heard in our academic structure. That's as much as I want to say tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you've enjoyed this discussion. I will be seeing you once again in a few days. Neil, good night.